Okay, this is lecture video number 2 for Tuesday, February 25th. So make sure you watched part 1 first. This is part 2. Okay, so who's William McKinley? Totally different from Bryan. McKinley's in his upper 50s. He's a Civil War veteran. He is deeply conservative, believes in high tariffs, believes in gold. McKinley also is not a spellbinding orator. In fact, he's dull. But McKinley has something that Bryan doesn't have: the support of big business. Remember, this is that era where the powers that be in American society are largely the captains of industry, the banks, the businesses. And they look at the prospect of a President William Jennings Bryan and it makes them ill. They think he would destroy business in America. So, for the first time ever in American history, you're going to see a candidate, we're on to slide 8, you're going to see a candidate effectively have his campaign financed by outside sources. This had never been. Big business, banks, they raised money for McKinley, as well as congressional Republican candidates who pledge high tariffs and a gold standard. It's the first time we ever see this. Well, you're not going to send McKinley around giving speeches like Bryan. You know, Bryan's the spellbinding orator. It's people faint when they hear him in the crowd. People show up to big events of his. That's not McKinley. McKinley will put you to sleep. So the powers that be who are financing McKinley's campaign come up with this idea of the front porch campaign. He'll spend much of the summer and early fall of 1896 sitting on the front porch of the governor's mansion in Columbus, Ohio. But those who are financing his campaign will actually pay to put people on trains and send them on a train into Columbus. They'll get off the train, they'll be taken to the governor's mansion, and they'll get a chance to wait in line and go and shake hands with Governor McKinley. It's kind of an ingenious thing to do. It makes McKinley meet a lot of people. He seems real. The Republicans also portray Bryan as a radical who would be a regional president to the South and West and would ignore the needs of the Northeast. They considered him to be the greatest threat that the industrial economy had seen in years. Well, let's look at the results. Go on your Dave Leap page and let's look together at the results here. And you're going to see this one is not a close race. Now you'll see that Bryan wins some states out west in particular with amazing vote totals. But then you'll look across the industrial sector in the north where more people live, and McKinley racks up victory after victory. Click on the state of New York. Unlike most elections in the late 19th century where it's like a point or less decides the whole election in one state in New York, this one, McKinley wins by what? 20 points? It's gigantic. Even the laborer, the worker, who tended to vote more Democratic, voted Republican in this race because they believed that Bryan as a president would destroy industry and thereby destroy their jobs. So this is a wipeout in every way. The country had a choice. The country made their choice. The Republican McKinley wins. And so ends a second half of a century where the Republican Party continues their dominance. McKinley will be sworn in as president on March 4th of 1897, replacing President Cleveland. He will have a strong Republican Congress to work with. Slide 9. The House and Senate will be solidly Republican. In 1897, they pass, and McKinley signs into law the Dingley Tariff, which raises the rate of the tariff even higher than the McKinley tariff did. So, again, this is the Republican Party standing firm on their high tariff belief and believing this will still help an economy that's ailing. It takes until the 4th year of his first term. But in 1900, Congress also passes the Gold Standard Act. and this will guarantee the use of the gold standard. Gold is what we will use to back up our paper money. And that issue finally is resolved. There's some other legislation that we're not going to worry much about here, but there's other things that he gets through Congress. Erdman Act, Bankruptcy Act of 1898. Go on to slide 10, though. By 1900, the panic has finally eased. That panic that started 8 years earlier, by 1900, seems to be well in the rearview mirror. And Americans are feeling better about their individual economic positions. In 1900, McKinley will have a rematch with William Jennings Bryan, and once again he'll trounce him. Republican power grows. The Populist Party proves to be dead and gone. It was a nice experiment, but it was not worthy of being anywhere near the same stage as the Republicans and the Democrats. While Bryan appears to be a very popular regional candidate, he has proven that he is not really an electable candidate for the whole nation. Now, we've only just begun the McKinley years. I've kind of given some of the big, at least domestic stories away. But there's going to be much more to this presidency. This is going to be a president who actually will preside over a war in his first term. And we'll get into that one starting tomorrow, called the Spanish-American War, which will start to take us in a whole new direction with imperialism and American power on a foreign stage. McKinley will also get assassinated, not till 1901 though, and we'll talk about that in terms of the horror of that tragedy. But his presidency ushers in the end of one century, and his reelection brings forth the beginning of another. And for at least the foreseeable future, it seems as if we've resolved the issues. Americans want their tariffs high. Americans want a gold standard. And that gold standard will remain in place for well over 30 years. And it will remain at least somewhat in place for well over 70 years. So this is a long-lasting, enduring outcome. So, a little bit of flavor for the most important election ever. I think we could stop there. In total, this took about 22 minutes. So what you're going to do next is you're going to go to the link to the Century video that I've left for you. You're going to love these Century videos. We watch these so much in this class. Between now and late May, you're going to see every one of them, and they're good. They were done at the turn of the 20th to 21st century, so they were done back around the year 2000. But they're still the best history videos I think are around anywhere. They're very enlightening. They have real stories of people who lived these times, including this first episode called Seeds of Change, which is going to chronicle the years 1900 to 1910. You're going to watch most of the video. I put on the video guide exactly where you could stop, basically around the 35-minute mark. Once they get into topics about the Spanish-American War and foreign policy, don't watch that. We'll take care of that, as we learn about that in the coming days here. But do watch the first 35 minutes of this. Fill out the video guide. So much of this is going to be about an American dream, immigration, and this new transforming society into something that we had never seen before, as we've been covering the last few days. So the first few minutes of it, they're going to give an overview of the whole series. You'll watch that just to see what the series is about, and then they'll get into the bulk of this episode called Seeds of Change. Watch these with an earpiece on your own. Fill out the video guide. When you're done with that, and you watch these lecture videos, you'll have taken up probably around an hour or so of class time. From there, don't get this often, but I'm going to give you the last 25-30 minutes of class to work on either your midterm paper, finish up anything with those DBQs, just make sure you get them turned in before the bell, or electronically turn them in by the end of the school day. Work on studying for your test a little early, start mapping out some essential questions, or work on reading chapter 18, which you've had a couple nights to do, and we'll have a notes check over tomorrow. So you could use that last bit of time to do that after you watch the video. But enjoy the video. Do the video guides. I will take a look at those for credit, so you could actually turn those into the sub when you're done. And then I'll get them back to you as notes. And then I will be returned tomorrow, and we'll have some fun tomorrow. So have a good rest of your day.